My wife rekindled our sex life to hide that she was having an online affair. Hi, welcome to my channel. Today, we've got a story from r/relationships where Op's wife rekindled their sex life, but Op found out that it was because she was having an online affair. Before we start, if you have any personal stories of how you got out of a toxic relationship with your cheating wife or girlfriend that you want to share, feel free to email them to me. Let's get started. First story. My wife and I have been married for 18 years. We've been together for 20, as of this year. We had a good marriage, I thought. We never really argued much. We agreed on strategies with the kids. Money is never an issue. We had an above average intimacy frequency, but our time together was always very muted. We would have sex on a schedule, 2 days per week, because kids make everything difficult. When I say muted, it was simply that our love life was her doing very little and us doing our thing and going to bed. It wasn't very exciting, but it was enough to get by, especially when the kids were young. That was our life for the years after kids. In June 2020, everything changed. She became a different person. Everything was on the table as to what she would do, and we went from having 2 nights per week scheduled to having sex twice, 3 times per day, 5 to 6 days per week. I have to admit this was almost too much at the time, but I never complained. I thought this meant everything was really good, that we had finally reached a level of comfort that allowed us to have the sex life I always wanted. This continued from June until November. In November, she started to talk dirty, but the issue was she was talking about things we did in the past that we never did. We never had an exciting sex life, she talked about, and she kept talking about rekindling how it used to be. It was hot, but in the back of my mind I was constantly thinking, is she talking about someone else or her ex-husband? While I enjoyed our time, it started to weird me out. Things slowed down a bit, but were still really hot and heavy until early 2021, and that was when shit hit the fan. She said, "I'm leaving you." I was completely taken aback. Here I was, thinking our sex life, while had slowed from the previous year a bit, was still insane by the standards of our life. For the record, I mentioned sex so often because I thought every other aspect of our life was perfect. We had a great relationship. Similar enough interests to be in each other's lives, but also other things to have our own interests. We share housework, even though she's a stay-at-home mom and I work. Anyway, so she says she is going to leave me. I have no idea what to do. A bunch of letters goes back and forth bringing up things that made her come to this decision. In these letters, I seem like the worst person in the entire world, and I am completely confused because, most of the stuff, I do not see at all. But, I accept my part in this, that I may not have been perfect, and that I will do what I can to mend these things. I stop playing on the computer as much, we start taking walks and taking more drives and generally spending more time together. I amend my leisure time to accommodate a better schedule. A few weeks go by, things seem to be getting better. Then another letter. Things are still awful in her eyes. I am perplexed, and we begin a 1.5 month long letter exchange. Yes, we are in the same house, but she found it easier to send me letters. After all of this is when the bombshell hits. She has been having an online affair with another man online. Nothing physical, and she says there were no picture exchanges, but I find that hard to believe. I was crushed. To be honest, it has been a while now and I'm still slightly crushed by it all. She says that she has broken it all off and that she doesn't know if we are going to stay together, but she doesn't want it to be because of someone else. She requests we get counselors, separately, so we can work on ourselves before working on each other. I agree, but say before we divorce I would like to make sure we get a counselor together. I'm not sure if she ever really agreed to that. Months of counseling and talking and reconciling, all the while our sex life is still pretty hot and heavy. She finally says that she feels she is ready for us to start working on rebuilding everything and that she has chosen me. I am happy about that, but also at the same time kind of insulted that it was even such a decision. One last thing of note, because I'm not sure where to put this here. There was one other guy that she had a thing with, but I'm still to this day not sure if it was reciprocal or if the guy was just pushing her and sending her pics. Not wanting to constantly feel defensive, I accepted her word and looked past it. This brings us to a few months ago. We had a trip together for the first time since COVID. It was a nice trip. It was romantic, and we were alone for the first time since COVID. It was the perfect opportunity to let go and enjoy each other. But it was okay. I even asked if she would be willing to be like before, and she said she would, but it never happened. That's when it hit me that our love life had gone back to the way it was before 2020. It wasn't as often. Not as active. And it is leaving me feeling as if the only reason she was being so active and exciting and adventurous is that it was the idea of being with other men that excited her. It's very negatively affecting me right now as I'm writing this in the middle of the night, unable to sleep, and I'm not sure how to move forward. In my counseling sessions, I was told to look at every conversation from a perspective of what do I want to happen and what do I think is going to happen. And I want to talk to her about these things and tell her how this is making me feel, but I feel she is going to get angry at me and I'm terrified to go back to where we were earlier this year. But, I also feel that if I say nothing I am just making the same mistakes that we discussed we wouldn't do again. It's also making me think I may not be over the affair, but I was having good sex so I was like meh, but now that things aren't so good it's starting to hit me again. So here I am. Asking Reddit for advice. Now let's look at some comments. The fuck wrote? Since you have professionals involved, what's their take on the whole letters thing? That doesn't sound particularly constructive to me. That sounds like words are too hard. But maybe it's a decent tool. I have to be honest. Maybe reread your post and see if you notice the same thing I do. Or maybe it's just the way you wrote what you wrote. All of your descriptions and even some of your sentences in the first person have the same theme. Her decisions. Her needs. None of yours beyond general unhappiness at her decisions and needs. Everything from sex to whether the relationship even exists. She seems to be at the helm of this relationship and slowly made you a passenger, possibly making you think you are. If you are still seeing a solo counselor, I would take this post to them. I feel like there's more to unpack here than just the events. Hope you're doing okay, mate. Lil Febs wrote. I honestly have no advice here, but I feel I need to ask, have you made any choices in this situation? From the way you describe the whole timeline, it seems as if you're passively going along with whatever she decides and aren't voicing your hurt when she's done a deeply hurtful thing. Has she apologized for what she's done at all? I would recommend taking a step back and figuring out what you want from this situation. Arksai wrote. At what point were you allowed to be upset for her affair? Now that she has chosen you, what is she doing to earn back your trust? It sounds like there isn't a lot of room for you in this relationship or never was, and she was using you sexually while having an affair. I would feel objectified and kind of gross about it. I think it's time to consider what your needs are and if she is a partner who can provide for those needs or even deserves another chance to try. Normai Ponder wrote. I find the letters to be a little childish. Relationships succeed with commutation. You can't work through things if you don't sit down and have those hard conversations. It almost seems like her willingness to make the relationship succeed is not very high since she tries to put all of the blame on you when she's the one having the affairs. Professional Volume 93 wrote. You have tried counseling. It seems to have failed. Have you discussed this with your counselor? I think that you should. It might help you cope and help with any decisions. In your shoes, I'd be seeing a lawyer and filing for divorce or at least a separation. Maine Greener Rep wrote. That's some serious midlife crisis behavior right there. She needs to find a way to deal with that oh my god I'm running out of time energy without blowing up her life because that's going to not pay off. Tohei Faces wrote. I don't know if I could be with someone who was so indecisive, dispassionate, and different about me. I noticed that you are afraid to express yourself to her because she will get mad or not react the way you want. It seems that you are putting yourself on the back burner because you are afraid she will leave you. I'm afraid she mentally already has. You deserve infinitely better than this one-sided relationship. Firewalker_UK wrote. I too was wondering what the MC thought of the letter thing. To me, it seems like her way of controlling the flow of information and trickle-truthing you at a high level. Also, when you give her your letter, she then has time to think and formulate her response. Add to this, she is removing body language and inclination of tone, which makes up 90% of our communication. She is effectively stopping you from assessing if she is lying or not. Also, you remarked that during intercourse she was referring to events that you don't feel apply to you. This strongly implies limerence for her AP, and these remembrances need to be challenged. At this point, you need to grab the reins and take control of your life. She has betrayed you, and any kindness or consideration she should expect is for you to decide and not for her to demand. If she is afraid of harsh words, then harsh words are the least she should expect. Before we take a look at another story from our /relationship_advice where Op's girlfriend confessed to him that she cheated on him 3 years ago, take a moment to like the video to show your support to the channel. Don't forget to leave your own opinion on the story in the comments down below. Second story. We have been married for 4 years and have been together for 6 years. We were the case of opposites attract. I was what is commonly depicted in pop culture as a nerd, as in I was a very good student, but I was also a fine sportsman. But yes, I had very little interest in partying or hookups. It was just not my scene. I don't even drink. She on the other hand was someone who loved to drink, party, hookups, etc. In short, she was the cool girl in college. Anyways, We never interacted much in college as we ran in very different circles, but we knew each other as we had a common love: maths. So we said hi to each other in the library and occasionally discussed math problems. Anyways, that was how our relationship was in college. We were never in contact after college as there was no reason to. Anyways, we met again 3 years later as we were working in adjacent buildings. We eventually started dating and got married. She still liked to party, but due to her busy schedule she hardly went out once every 2 weeks, and I very seldom went with her. Anyways, one night she didn't come home till 3 in the morning, and it was very unlike her as she always came back by 12 or 1, as she is very serious about her sleep regimen, and never lets anything disrupt her sleep. But I still remember that day because starting the next day there was a massive change in her. She almost stopped drinking, her party days suddenly declined by 90%, and whenever she went out she insisted that I come with her, started hanging out with me a lot more, and came up with a lot of projects for us to do together. If our relationship before that day was very good, then our relationship after that day became awesome. We have recently started talking about buying a house and starting a family together. Yesterday night we were laying on the bed and I was talking about whether we need 4 or 5 bedrooms in our new home when suddenly she burst into crying. I consoled her, and when she became coherent she said that she has to share something with me which has been weighing on her conscience for 3 years now. She then confessed that she cheated on me with a guy she met during the night out. She told me that some guys kept buying drinks for her and her friend, and although initially she didn't want to accept free drinks, eventually she gave in as her friend was interested in one of those guys. And I can attest to the fact that she never accepts drinks from guys. She was famous even during college days for never accepting drinks from anyone. She always paid for her drinks. Anyways, eventually, they decided to go to the guy's house as her friend begged her to. She admitted that she should have said no at that point, but she didn't. So they went back to the guy's apartment and the friend hooked up with the guy. My wife was sitting with the friend in the living room and well, they also hooked up. It was not full-on penetrative sex, but everything else happened. After coming home she realized just how big a mistake she made and committed to making major life changes, including dropping the said friend and drastically decreasing her alcohol intake. I asked her why didn't she tell me then, and she replied that she didn't. Then I asked why to tell me now. She said that when I started talking about our future together she was racked with guilt and she didn't want to build a future life with me based on secrets. So she confessed. I didn't know how to respond, so I asked for some space from her. Right now I am in my second bedroom deciding about my next course of action. Suddenly I remembered about this sub and realized that I could maybe get some perspective from different people about my situation. I am open to any suggestions, people. Right now I have not told anyone else. Now let's look at some comments. Generic Memereference wrote, when a relationship can come back from cheating, 1. It's a random one-night thing, not an emotional relationship with someone they know. 2. They tell their partner about it immediately after. 3. They commit to making changes so that it can't ever happen again. You've got number 1 and number 3 here. Some people might be able to accept this and continue the relationship. The fact that the changes she made were so obvious and so positive is another good sign. On the other hand, you are justified in ending a relationship over an important lie that was kept for 3 years. For me, I could maybe get over this for a person I loved and married. But I encourage you not to try to decide right away. Be with it and wait for your feelings to become clear to you. Simple_strategies wrote, when people are truly sorry their actions will show that. She even made all those improved changes on her own. She realized she put herself in a vulnerable situation and made some poor choices. Personally, it appears to me that she truly has learned from her mistake and is not likely to repeat itself. Assuming my assessment is correct, there is only one thing that matters. Do you feel capable of forgiving her completely and leaving this in the past to never be brought up ever again? Some people can't, and thus they have to be honest with themselves and know they can't move forward with the relationship and end it. Don't be hasty, take the time needed to make sure you are very clear in what each option means. Requiem wrote, well, the ball is unfortunately in your court. If you can live with the fact of what happened, and the 3 years it took her to tell you, and the choices she took from you because of that, would you have married her? Would you have stayed? So cool. She fucked up and fixed herself. But again, you weren't given a choice of the matter until now. This decision only affects you here. All of us just add our 2 cents with our view, hopefully as unbiased as possible. But let's be real, and if you honestly think that A, you can forgive it and grow with this woman, and B, never forget, but to not use this against her in fights or count it as a one-up, which can be a really easy thing to fall back on in an argument, then this could work out for you, but in my honest opinion, it will be probably one of the toughest things you'll have to do. And if she wavers now, while you go through the cycle of emotions, then you'll know that she is still being dishonest. It was a long time ago. For her, it's a brand spanking new to you, so if she ever utters the words "it was so long ago, I got over it, why can't you?" or anything else of a similar nature, then you'll slip and fall and regress and add on additional resentment because of it. You have a very crucial set of questions to answer for yourself, and take as much time as you need to deal with everything. Good luck. Healthy Box 5 wrote. You're going to get advice all over the place on this one. For some, cheating is a hard line. Any cheating is an automatic end game. Others, it's bad, but if you're able to work past it and the cheater has changed, it might be worth a second chance. I can't speak for you, but I could handle a one-off fling better than a full-blown affair. If that fling made her work on being a better person, and you feel she's truly sorry and has changed, maybe it is salvageable. It comes down to whether you think she's truly sorry, and can you get over the transgression. It's a line and Al wrote. The linchpin of this whole matter is whether you can trust her again. That's what cheating destroys, respect and trust. If you still respect her and think she respects your relationship, and you feel that her 180-degree change means you can trust her still, then you both need to work on it, her more than you. To be honest, she's got some mileage to make up in both aspects. If you find that looking at her brings up anger at knowing what she did and how she lied to you for 3 years afterward, then maybe you need to consider other options. Regardless of whether she'd had a drink, and you both seem to agree that she'd only had a drink, not blackout or anything, then why did she do it? Personally, that would maybe sway my opinion a little. Why, left alone with a guy, did she proceed to perform sexual acts with him while in a relationship with you? Are her morals questionable? Does she have a history of cheating, and she needs to be fucking honest here? Is this the only time she's done it to you, like not even a kiss and a grope? What was going through her head at the time, and did she not at any point think about what this would do to you if you found out? Then afterward, why did she think lying by omission to you was the way to go? She says she didn't want to lose you, but why wasn't that thought uppermost in her head when she was getting freaky with this stranger? All these questions I would demand answers for, and I would also expect to have to spend some time by myself to level out my emotions so I can think about how I feel and how I want to proceed. Honestly, this is a kick in the balls to anyone, the whole event and the lying after, but you're the only one who can decide whether you will have any respect for her from here on and whether you think she can rebuild your trust in her. I guess I return to the key element for me. Will I spend the next 5 years feeling a wave of rising anger whenever I look at her and contemplate what she did, unprompted and unnecessary as it was? If you think you can't, or in time you find that you can't, then do both of you a favor and end it. Ordead01 wrote. Listen, while I do agree with some people on here saying that her actions prove that she did change, the matter of the fact is she did keep this from you for 3 whole years just for her selfish reason of "I didn't want to lose you," and that is something you should take into account when deciding what do you want to do at this point. In the end, is really up to you, but ask yourself these 3 questions. Will you be able to be happy around her knowing she did that and lied to you for so long? Will you be able not to bring this up whenever you argue? These types of stuff give you huge moral superiority, and while it makes sense it doesn't help anyone, neither you nor her. I hope I am explaining myself correctly. English is not my first language. Will she be able to regain your trust? If the answer to any of these is no, then I don't think it's healthy for both of you to still be together. It will be a lesson for both of you, and you can still cherish the years you spent next to her, or at least the nice parts. I wish you the best and hope for your happiness. What do you think about all of this? Do you have any advice for the op from both stories? Let us know in the comments down below. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. Hit the notification bell to make sure you never miss an upload.